Well, this is it. It is time for the grand finale of our Let's Play of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch, for obviously trying to able to go for 100% completion, and that we're going to be tackling through the final mode in the entire game, that is the True Arena, in some cases the hardest game mode in the entire game. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch, basically based off from Kirby's Return to Dreamland back on the Nintendo Wii. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to finally 100% everything in terms of the extra mode. And what do I mean by that though, is that we also did manage to able to realize that we ended up tackling through the challenge mode, or should I say the challenge stages as far as this is concerned, and usually relatively speaking though, we actually did those stages in a reverse order, to make things a little bit more interesting when it comes to the forms of the variety and all that stuff. So today, as I said before, today is going to be the finale in terms of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and because of that, we are now tackling through the True Arena, which is basically just the arena, except that we are able to come across into the harder variations of certain bosses. And even especially noticeable, not only does it able to actually bring back certain bosses based off from extra mode of all things, but also get this, is that they're able to double up the length for the sake of the forms of the True Arena itself. So obviously about no matter what though is about the fact that this is going to be the ultimate test as far as this is concerned. So either way, I think for the most part I'm actually going to be able to go for a mask change. Specifically, we now decided able to wear the regular Megalore mask as far as this is concerned, because as a result, yeah, I just feel like this might be a perfect opportunity that we can able to actually wear that mask to begin with. So either way though, as usual, I'm going to be going for a Tornado ability, because seriously, Tornado rocks in this game, especially concerning that, you know, with that particular special move that we somehow managed able to utilize so many times for certain bosses and during the forms of any extra mode. So I feel like that this will be the final time we're going to be using the Tornado ability, because as a result, it does manage able to dish out as many of the actual health bar for certain bosses a lot easier. And to make matters even better, especially noticeable concerning that we're now going to be faced up against with the forms of the EX counterparts of certain bosses again, but this time we actually got ourselves our full health back, so no need to worry about the forms of a half unit of health. Although, unlike something related to the ultimate choice from the likes of the forms of Kirby-style allies, that you have to cope with the forms of lesser amounts of health, which makes things a little bit tough and difficult, I'll admit that right away. But that's mainly because about the fact that I still haven't exactly fully 100% everything in terms of Kirby-style allies, especially noticeable because I'll admit though, that mode is really tough though, especially concerning I was able to bring up the best combination when it comes to not only just trying to play as one of those specific characters, but also just trying to go for a full team set. Like as a result, I was expecting if I was trying to able to create a fire and hammer combination, but it didn't go well. It didn't go too well. Especially it's bad enough that the actual AI just feels a bit all over the place, you know? So, at the very least though, it's about the fact that we can able to actually just to like, well, I'm sure that we'll discuss more details about that once we get to next year. So either way though, so of course, as you probably already know, it's about the fact, as I said before, that the True Arena decides to able to double the amount of length, especially noticeable because not only does it able to include the EX counterparts, but not only for regular bosses, but also with mini bosses as well, including Sphere Dumas as well, but also, get this, is that not only we're also able to stumble across into secret bosses, including the new transformation for the sake of the forms of Megalore himself, or should I say Megalore's soul, but also they decided able to include every bosses based off of Megalore epilogue. So yeah, that's a little bit interesting, especially concerning about that particular point that obviously it makes a little bit more sense to able to actually add some bit of extra variety when it comes to the forms of the actual True Arena itself, unlike the Wii version, that basically though is a pretty simple and straightforward pretty much an easy and piece of cake kind of syndrome or something like that. Again, I will admit though right away though, it's been about 2 days ago since I've last played this for sure. I mean, let's face it though, it's about the fact that, well, suffice to say, when it comes to the forms of other topics I would like to point things out, and that's what appears to be about the fact that today's date, of course, the 31st of August today, in some cases in 2023 today, and tomorrow is going to be the 9th month, which appears to be about the forms of we're going on to September until tomorrow. So even then though, yeah, it might be the perfect opportunity that we can able to actually finish off with this entire game for its Let's Play department during the forms of by the end of August, potentially. Especially, it's kind of sad about the fact that summer is almost about to come towards the actual conclusion at the end. At least until specifically when we're able to actually see summer again, at some point in during the films have been next year's June. Especially concerning about the fact that despite what Ray has already explained about this ever since in Donkey Kong Country on the Game Boy Advance version of the game, that basically we feel like that summer is a bit lackluster this time around though, for this year though. That's just because about the fact that we've never actually get a chance to able to go into any holiday vacations during that specific month, especially noticeable after that particular cancellation from that particular complications and all that stuff. But either way though, at the same time though, at the very least we did somehow manage able to visit to certain beaches every once in a while. But that's just the way of how the fact that I'm pretty sure that was probably because it was my idea, including Jewel, and especially noticeable with the Powerpuff Girls as well, just in case about the fact that we're able to enjoy some bit of time on the actual sunny beaches and stuff like that. So, anywho though, so yeah, something's worth noting for as well is about the fact that one thing that me, including Ray, has both completely forgotten to mention about during the course of the forms of on Tuesday, potentially speaking, and that's what appears to be about the fact that since in 2 days ago, obviously some of the Amigo Party Central has recently came out 2 days ago. Now, I haven't exactly looked upon the reviews of the game yet still, but I'm sure that someone said in the comments will able to actually bring this out, especially noticeable because it's been about a couple of days since I actually looked upon something related to some of the Amigo Party Central. That's just mainly because recently we have decided able to continue playing through Mario Plus Rapid Sparks of Hope in our own time, and as far as for my first impressions, as far as you probably already know, that recently yesterday that Rayman in the Phantom Show DLC has recently came out yesterday. And as a result, whatever when I got to my first impressions of that particular DLC, I had a lot of fun with it so far. Especially concerning about the particular point, it's nice able to see Rayman become playable again after the events of, you know, Rayman Legends and all that stuff. And it's nice able to see the forms of Rayman using the Mario items. So even then, that does seem pretty cool though, because it was originally, I was expecting that Rayman will be on Smash Bros. Game, but unfortunately though, because of it didn't seem to happen. So kind of unfortunate though. But regardless of everything else though, is about the fact that apparently one of those fan-made mods did somehow manage able to address about the fact that Rayman will be playable in one of those fan mods in during forms of Smash Ultimate anyway. But even then though, that might be saying something for a later time, especially noticeable that, well, I'm glad I finally managed able to go back onto Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope again, after playing through the forms of not only the Tower of Doom, which I'm pretty much at the halfway point of it still, and especially noticeable after the events I've somehow managed to complete, or should I say fully 100% everything, in terms of the forms of the last Spark Hunter. So as a result, that it seems that Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, in terms of DLC content, is completely done. So as a result, we've only got a couple of DLCs left, which is of course, you know, Wave 6 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I was expecting they were able to mention more details about that, and during the forms of the next Nintendo Direct coming up, and during the forms of not long now actually, as far as what some people seem to say about this, especially concerning that we always attempt to have Nintendo Directs for every September since in 2016 from the likes of the Nintendo 3DS Directs. So, at least as far as I'm concerned. So even then though, I also want to point things out as well. In terms of the forms of other content, I want to bring this up. And that's what appears to be about the fact that I was originally trying to able to discuss upon something related to Mario Kart Tour today, but I think it's probably best if we let Ray the Flying Squirrel were able to mention more about it, especially notable because he's now on to the ending conclusion, or should I say, towards the end game playthrough for the sake of the forms of Donkey Kong Country on the Game Boy Advance version. So, although, despite the fact that he needs to able to try to find some camera pickups here and there, but I'm sure that he'll discuss more details about the forms of Mario Kart Tour stuff during at some point in Journey forms of not only for tomorrow, but maybe potentially that he'll try to mention the rest of the forms of some content they'll bring us into for the next tour coming up for Mario Kart Tour. Although speaking of which though, is about the fact that one thing that Ray the Flying Squirrel has completely forgotten to mention about, that recently we finally managed able to rank up our Battle Mode multiplayer ranking department, which as far as I'm concerned, we've now finally made it to level B, or should I say, I'm pretty sure we're now on level B now, so I think it's all pretty swell, even though despite that every once in a while I still gonna get butt kicked every once in a while, especially noticeable because I'm not a big fan of Battle Mode in Mario Kart Tour, just because it just feels like a watered down version of the forms of, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe variation, especially noticeable that the music is getting old very fast every once in a while. Like, I totally get it because of the limitations, but still, I just really wish that they'll just have some bit of more music variety rather than just stucking with, you know, one musical track, which is of course the Battle Course 1 based off from Super Mario Kart, but that's besides the point. So either way, it seems about the fact that we've almost nearly at the end, so even then no. Although, I'm pretty certain about the fact that we've now almost onto the halfway point, because as I said before, after we've taken care of the forms of some regular extra mode variants of certain bosses, I'm pretty certain, well, despite the fact that we still need able to come across into certain bosses with a random randomizer kind of thing. However though, as soon as we're able to actually start able to fight against with the exactly same bosses in Journey forms have been you know, Megalore Epilogue, then things gets a little bit more interesting. And on top of that, well, I was expecting about the fact that originally I was expecting to say that the True Arena is without a doubt is the hardest mode in the game, which I will admit though right away, especially noticeable concerning that we've now actually got ourselves the inventory item system. That means that this particular mode is going to be a piece of cake, especially noticeable because not only we can able to equip the Tornado copy ability, but also get this, is that since that we actually did manage to save up the actual maximum tomatoes, and it's a good thing too that we've not actually wasted one during the course of the actual extra mode itself, so as a result, there are a few times though I think I'm also able to save those maximum tomatoes, specifically once we get to the true final fight in the game. And I will say that the final fight in Journey forms of the true arena is definitely a little bit more tougher this time around, which meaning about the fact that you see why as soon as we're able to actually dive right into this. And I'm pretty sure that just like the forms of how it does it in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, when it comes to the forms of the Ultimate Cup Z, basically though, there's going to be some useful assistance in here, especially noticeable that, well, I found it was a little bit, kind of, weird about the fact that in later Kirby games nowadays, that the actual, tougher variations of certain arena modes is actually overall 10 times as easy, especially noticeable with all these souvenir items to be equipped. Although, unlike the forms of how it does on Kirby-style allies, that I will admit though right away, the ultimate choice higher difficulty setting is really tough, I will admit though right away. And on top of all that stuff though, with the forms of in Kirby Planet Robobots does have the amiibo functionality, which you can use at any point during the course of being a true arena, including the arena as well. However, there's only one game exception to this, and that's what appears to be Kirby Triple Deluxe, but that's just because about the fact that usually amiibos does not exist until by the end of 2014, able to mark the celebration of the release of Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, so yeah, you probably get the idea about that. Oh, and on top of all that stuff though, is about the fact that, originally though, I've decided able to take a break on playing Sonic Dash for a while, but it wasn't until I've recently discovered that I've somehow come back into that game again. Especially thanks to the forms of the next character card event I'm about to be participating in for, That's, of course, trying to unlock Captain Shadow, which obviously about the fact that he's obviously wearing a pirate outfit and all that stuff, which as a result, that is a good thing I did somehow manage to dive right back into the forms that have been, you know, Sonic Dash recently, especially concerning about that particular point that I've almost unlocked every single characters up to this point. Well, mind you, except with the other two, because obviously about the fact I don't think it's possible we can able to actually bring not only Miss Pac-Man, but also Hello Kitty as well. So it's kind of unfortunate because I'm thinking because of my, well, I remember back in the day, I think it was in 2017 or 16 presumably, that my god, my iPhone battery, specifically my first ever one, which appears to be iPhone 5, my god, the battery life is so underwhelming. Especially noticeable, it drains so fast. Although I'm guessing because of its age, all that stuff. Oh, that's not fair. How come I just got hit as soon as the battle begins? I mean, jeez, what was up with the actual hitbox all of a sudden? Well, I suppose it really doesn't matter though, because obviously with the tornado, it just, you know, seriously rocks. Because I will admit though right away though, that you guys are probably thinking that you're expecting that the True Arena could be popped up as one of the hardest challenges in journey forms of this game somewhere around here. Well, honestly, no. I have no real trouble with the forms of the True Arena, because it's especially noticeable because I did manage to play this on my own time for a bit. Well, actually kind of thinking about it, whenever I first got the game, back in Journey Forms in February, but it wasn't until that on, I would say in April or March sometime, that I basically did somehow manage to tackle through the True Arena. I mean, let's face it though, to me, it just feels like a piece of cake to me though, although essentially speaking though, I found it, you know, ridiculously easy and stuff like that, especially because of how the fact that with all that particular ridiculously overpowered tornado copy ability, and on top of all that stuff though with the useful souvenir items you can able to use wisely, so just to ensure about the fact that we're able to actually save one of those specific useful items for later, especially noticeable if you get into the actual dangerous statement, and obviously you can able to use that at any point, although it does ruin a challenge for a bit, I will admit that right away, but I just want to get this out of the way just in case we can able to move on to you know what I'm saying, the next couple of Let's Plays, including going back on to not only Super Mario RPG, but also Sonic Frontiers, because after all, the third and the final free DLC update for Sonic Frontiers is almost approaching up to this point. So, I believe, relatively speaking though, we've only just got about, roughly about a month left until that particular DLC is about to reach existence. So, yeah, that'll be exciting. So, anyway though, in terms of everything else I could possibly say about this for the most part, well, I suppose there's a nice thing too about the fact that with the True Arena in mind, not only does Kirby can able to actually fight against with certain bosses based off from Mega Law Epilogue for the first time, but if you do manage to able to completely done the True Arena, not only does Kirby can able to fight these guys, but also say applies with Meta Knight, Bandana Waddle Dee, and even King Diddy Dee, which as a result, it does feel a little bit interesting when it comes to likely you can now able to utilize copy abilities against with the forms of certain bosses based off of Mega Law Epilogue. So yeah, pretty interesting all things considered. I apologize for my commentary because it's a little bit tongue twisting the end folks, but that's just because about the fact that I'm just really looking forward to able to actually get this game finished before we move on to, you know, the resuming Let's Plays, including at some point in the future, we can able to not only tackle through Kirby-style allies, but also certain Kirby spin-off games every once in a while, assuming of course about the fact that we'll definitely need to able to figure something out. So, anyway, so it looks like we've almost nearly at the end, so it's just about the fact no matter what though, I'm pretty sure they'll save up the actual Master Crown during at some point in Journey Forms of towards the very end of the True Arena, presumably speaking, because I'm pretty sure once we're done with the forms of Crowned Duma, and I'm pretty sure it might do the same thing for the sake of the forms of other bosses for that matter, that obviously that, well, again, it has been a very long while since actually I've last played the True Arena. So, and to make matters even better is that unlike the regular Arena mode, that basically though we always attempt able to do that particular video way more later than the forms of, you know, as early as the forms have been April in some cases though, well, you know, that we can now able to actually do this mode for reals without any sort of delay, which I guess that's a good thing, especially concerning about that particular point that, well, honestly guys, there's not much else I can talk about. So either way though, yeah, there goes the forms of Crowned Duma right here. So I get the strong feeling the next boss fight is going to be this ginormous robot thingy right there. So even then though, we only got 6 more bosses to go until the entire game is fully completed. So, and let me tell you something, I had a lot of fun playing this game. What I will admit though right away is that trying to go for the entire completion as far as this is concerned, well, I should probably save that particular topic for later, until once we're able to show off the tiny bits of extras here and there, just in case we can able to actually show off every single content of how this game actually has to offer. So even then though, let's just go ahead and kick his butt, especially noticeable with the forms of this glorious tornado ability, which I always appreciated for that particular move, especially, well, to make matters even better, again as I stated this before, thankfully you don't need to worry about just trying to able to keep on shaking the controller every time whenever you're trying to create a big tornado special move. So all you have to do is just basically hold down the actual button, and if you let go of the button, once it's fully charged, then obviously about the fact that you can able to do a massive devastating attack. So either way though, so there goes that, but if you think that's over, well, obviously he's not down yet. So we still need to able to take him down no matter what, so anywho though, so yeah, in terms of for my final thoughts of August as far as this year is concerned, it's nothing bad or anything, it's just about the fact that I just wish there was more to it. Although aside from the fact that recently I've now been having a lot of fun playing through, you know what I said before with the forms of Rain Man in the Phantom Show DLC. And overall, I don't think I could probably able to give you any spoiler details from this point just yet. Especially noticeable because I've only just recently got started. Especially noticeable because, well, relatively speaking though, it's a good thing I can able to actually play the game on the go, in case if I want to go out somewhere. So even then though, that's always a huge plus. Especially noticeable, I definitely need to get used to with the forms of a lot of, you know, new enemy types, and especially noticeable with how the environments is going to turn out. So even then though, I'm very excited to see how that's going to bring us something into. So even then though, yeah, that's all I can say about it. Now of course we're going back into the forms of Lore and Mega Lore again, or should I say Lore EX and Mega Lore, but now that the entire battle is a lot more you know, tolerable this time around, because thankfully we've now got full health, so, but it's still a little bit tricky, I will admit though right away, due to its attacks, but usually relatively speaking, as you can see, on journey forms of the top left corner, right underneath the timer, there's no way you can able to actually utilize the souvenir item on this part, because obviously, the only time you can only use the souvenir items is to, like, you know, walk on ground and stuff like that, so I totally get it about the forms of that specific challenge worth noting for, but either way though, that must have been said something, so. And even though sometimes trying to take down Lore EX and Mega Lore can sometimes take a bit of while to able to take a bit of health drainage for the sake of time. So even then though, that's what I'm really trying to ask for as far as this is concerned. So. And yeah, I cannot wait to see how that's going to turn out in Journey Forms in September, although there's nothing going on in September, I'm afraid, apart from that particular point for one thing in mind, that are obviously about the fact that with Pikmin 1 plus 2, physical version it should be around, let's just say, 22 days time now, so even then though, and it's a good reason why I decided to go for a physical version of not digital, just because about the fact that, well, not only I pretty much almost wasted my money for the digital version, but it's also about the fact I just love not only game card cover, but also the actual box art covers, and especially noticeable, just look at the description at the back, and especially noticeable about the fact that if I come towards the point with that particular save data corruption again, you know, just like the forms of how it does it with my similar situation as in the Wii U sometimes, Although, let's not talk about that right now, because obviously we're now in 2023 still, so even though I just can't even believe about the fact that we're getting very close towards the end of 2023, before we move on to the new year, which is of course 2024, but I might have spoken too soon on this point, especially noticeable because we're still on the forms of, towards the end of the forms of, or should I say, the ending point of August, so yeah, that's saying something, so at least potentially speaking though, it's about the fact that you don't need to necessarily try to worry about obtaining those super abilities and just watch out just not to get sucked up by the forms of that particular black hole. Although, there's a catch to this though, and that's what appears to be about the fact that once we get to the final fight, in the forms of in a true arena, my god, it will be a lot more tougher, like I said before. Especially noticeable because, relatively speaking though, this is one of the point about the fact that most first-time players who ever experienced a true arena for the first time ever was not expecting to see that coming. And I'm pretty sure you guys should probably already know why of what I was explaining about this in a moment. So anyway, so there goes Megalore EX, and we've only got 3 boss fights to go. So in some cases, next up we have is none other than Galacto Knight. In this case, the toughest knight in terms of the forms of the entire Kirby franchise. So I almost assume about the fact that they're trying to go for more for Knight, but not exactly, because even then, it's nice to see Galacto Knight did somehow make its appearance on the Nintendo Switch Kirby games of all things, unless if you do want to count the forms of Super Kirby Clash for certain variants on not only the story mode, but also with the forms of the team mode, as far as like online play or something like that. So, but regardless of such though, with the forms of the Tornado ability, although some people attempt able to use the Sand copy ability a lot more, well, I did manage able to try and practice the forms of certain Sand copy ability movesets, but it's kind of hard able to figure it out, especially noticeable. I was expecting to try something new, but honestly guys, I think Tornado seriously becomes my BFF when it comes to like copy abilities in mind. So that's just the way I feel about it, so even though I'm biased, I guess. Alright, so we're now back into the forms of the final boss, based off from Megalore Epilogue, but except this time, Kirby is now going to be able to take him on this time, so, but thankfully with the forms of the copy ability, it should make the entire boss fight a lot easier, well, assuming of course if you do have a Tornado copy ability, which, seriously, I can't help it for myself, I do really love the Tornado copy ability in this game, especially noticeable because again, it demolishes any other boss health, including any other like some stuff like that as well. Even though it's kind of a shame that, like I said before, in Journey forms have been Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot, and Star Allies, for some reason that Tornado ability does not return at all, until Kirby and the Forgotten Land, or potentially speaking though with, I would say, Kirby Stream Buffet or something like that. Mind you, it has been a year ago since I've actually last played Kirby Stream Buffet, but that's just because about the fact that apparently, from what I've heard, that a lot of people never actually played a game after about a year when it's released or something like that. Maybe because they just moved on to another like set of Nintendo Switch games every once in a while, like, you know, with Pikmin 4, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Metroid Prime Remastered, and potentially before, at one hand, with Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Sonic Superstars, and WarioWare Move It, and of course, most notably, Super Mario RPG, including some other Switch games coming out for it in journey forms of the rest of 2024, before we move on to the next era when it comes to the forms of the Nintendo console's career, so but I suppose that particular topic can wait, but either way though, that's as far as I can usually just try to able to describe about the forms of how today's discussion went, especially concerning about the particular point that, you know, I'm seriously really looking forward to able to continue playing through Rayman in the Phantom Show DLC, so even then though, yeah, I cannot wait to see how the ending is going to turn out. Again, I'm probably not going to spoil things too much, because obviously that was the new part of the DLC, so I would expect about the fact that I'm probably not going to give away any spoilers for the time being, so once I do manage to able to complete the game, excuse me, once I do manage to complete the DLC or something. So, excuse me, I'm really sorry about this point, guys, because for whatever reason, every time when I drink more juice or water, my god, I always belch most of the time, which I know it sounds incredibly gross kind of thinking about it, but regardless of such though, that's all I can really think about it. Alright, this is it, guys. The true final battle, which is usually, relatively speaking though, we're about to be beating up the forms of what else? Megalord Soul. Except, it's gonna make things a lot more tougher. Which I can assure you for this point, because not only that we have to deal with not only phase 1, but multiple phases, as far as I'm concerned. Again, luckily you don't need to worry about the super abilities or anything, and also the timer itself just goes completely vanished. So, you know, for the most part, the entire battle remains kind of the same, except now, his attacks are a lot more dangerous this time around. Like, he can now shoot 2 Kamehameha beam, and on top of that, he'll now able to actually go into this particular crazy, dashing through portal things way too fast, rather than just in a slower speed. And to make matters even much more dangerous than ever before, is that he will occasionally try to ambush you by simply able to actually cause able to activate not only 1, but 2 black holes within left and right. And again, for those of you who have a first time experiencing this fight, oh my god, you will easily get ambushed very, very easily. Like right here. I almost assume about the fact that he'll try to summon the black hole in the middle, but as it turns out, I always ended up in that particular attack. And as a result, again, if you die at one point, basically though, you have to restart the entire battle all over again. Or to be more specifically, you have to restart the entire true arena all over again. So yeah, this is definitely a lot harder than the forms of how it does it on, you know, the regular version of that particular, you know, Megalord Soul, which as a result, yeah, it does kind of reminds me of the forms that are similar, the similar kind of vibe as the forms of the game called, Castlevania The Dracula X Chronicles. Whenever you played Rondo of Blood Remake, whenever you do come across into the forms of, let's just say, I don't know about you, like Dracula's 3rd form or something like that, if you do somehow manage to able to rescue all of the ladies or something like that, from what I've heard anyway. And basically though, that particular form is definitely a lot tougher, so yeah, it's definitely going to be a long battle. So yeah, as a result, it does kind of remind me of that. So, and unfortunately, I've lost my tornado ability, but that's just because of this very unexpected, you know, with that black hole situation right there. But if you think we've done here, well, as a result, we got a new phase, which as a result, this time, he does manage to bring up a little eyeball, for I've noticed something like this. So yeah, it now gets like a singular eyeball has been shown up. So as a result, and what this means though, he now able to actually summon 2 brand new moves, which as a result, in terms of super abilities anyway, well, I've noticed something like this anyway, that he now summons the Sand Tornado, and on top of that, he'll also brings us the actual familiar ability based off of Mecha as well. So yeah, this is definitely not only the hardest version of Megalord Soul in this version, but also it's definitely one of the longest battles I've ever had to come across. So, but then again though, it's a good thing we actually got ourselves a souvenir item system to make matters even much more easier said than done. But as a result, that yeah, it's definitely a lot tougher. So even though, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Have you guys ever managed to able to encounter, you know, the hardest version of Megalord Soul? And as a result, what's your impressions of that particular fight? Although, there's only one little attack that, despite the fact that it's pretty easy to able to not get predictable about it, and that's of course with the forms of that particular. Oh no! I refuse to able to actually lose my tornado ability, because as a result, I need to defend myself when it comes to a lot of these attacks. And also about the fact that these super ability attacks is also going to get a lot more increased this time around, which is especially noticeable concerning that, you know, it still is found out the hardest version of the fight. But I can still able to beat him, no problem, but except the fact that with the forms of that particular point that You know, sometimes it gets a bit crazy, but as a result, I highly recommend you're able to save up the maximum tomatoes for this majority of this fight, because as a result, yeah, it is a lot harder, so... But yeah, nothing else to say about this, I guess, especially noticeable because concerning about the particular point that I promise you guys I'll get to my final thoughts of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe once we're able to actually finish up, you know, the entire mode itself. And, well, straight to the point, we've finally done it. We've finally completed everything in Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. And after all that being said, though, and all these modes, all things considered for that particular matter, though, well, can I still even recommend this game? Of course I can, it's fantastic. But even then though, what if you're trying to go through like certain optional things, even especially noticeable for most Kirby games nowadays, they obviously tend to bring us something like, oh wow, we actually beat it for about 25 minutes and 25 seconds and 85 milliseconds. It's like multiple fives here and there. And also if you're probably wondering what that present is for, that actually means that I somehow used those souvenir items, so that's besides the point. So, there we go. Not only we can able to play as multiple characters in the true arena, and also we've got the final mask in the game, which is the Golden Kirby, and of course we get ourselves a nice little fanfare. So yeah, that's what happens right there if you managed able to achieve the 100% completion. And not only that, you get ourselves Kirby Master cinematic cutscene, but also we've managed able to unlock every single songs in Journey forms of the jukebox menu. But again, in order to able to get that particular alternative music you're going to be hearing in the background on the main menu, you have to able to complete all of those Merry Mega Land you know, true extra missions as well. I mean, god, that's way too much to deal with. But anyway though, and as you can tell about the fact that, well, aside from the fact that you get an alternative main menu music, which as a result, it looks super awesome, but also I've noticed that there is a lack of decoration this time around, which I almost assumed they were able to actually decorate a bit more for the main menu. But oh well, beggars else can't be choosers, I guess. And of course, that just like in any other Kirby games, including the original version of the game, not only you can able to rewatch certain cinematic cutscenes, including new cutscenes this time around, and also you can able to once again listen to the actual in-game soundtrack. And I don't know if this version does include the sound effects this time around though, I don't think. Mind you, it's been about 3 years ago since I've last played the original Wii version of Kirby's Return to Dreamland, but regardless of everything else though, that's all I can really say about that, I guess. So, yeah, in terms of my final thoughts on the game, like I said before, can I still even recommend this game? Well, as I said, of course I can, it's fantastic. But, if you're looking for the forms of the optional things, like for the majority of the forms of the Kirby games that we're pretty much familiar with, it's some of the most punishing, well, specifically in Merry Mega Land, as I'm gonna bring this out, that is the most punishing things I've ever had to go through when it comes to completing everything in the entire game. Mainly because they just somehow forces you to able to recycle certain things worth noting for whenever you're trying to replay through the exactly same sub-games over and over and over again, if you keep on messing things up and what have you. So, anyway, so enough about that, so let's go ahead and show off some mini extras here and there. Like for instance, as I said before, this game does support an amiibo functionality, and this is what you get. Just a healing item, a random copy ability generator, and that's it. Kind of pointless, kind of thinking about it. Although, it is there for the sake of the forms if you want to have yourselves an easier time with the game or something, but it's just for bragging rights, I suppose. I mean, sure enough though, nothing can go bad on it, right? Although, there's one little thing we should probably also want to bring this up as well. That's what appears to be about the fact that, well, if we somehow managed able to go back onto the mode selection right here, and we can pretty much guarantee about the fact that, as you saw, that we've now got ourselves a nice little crown on top of Kirby's head, and as a result, signifies that you've actually completely done with everything. So even then, speaking of which though, let's go ahead and change our not just looking at these souvenir items, but I'm meant able to go into, like, different mask change kind of way. And as you can see, we've now stumbled across into Gold Kirby. And if you do manage to wear one, basically we get ourselves a bit of a familiar sound effects based off from the good old retro Kirby games. All the way back onto Kirby's Dream Land back on the Game Boy. So yeah, that seems really interesting. Especially, it's more accurately about the fact that this will end the actual 30th anniversary treatment for the actual Kirby series, for that matter. Well, I'm sure enough though, I'm still surprised about the fact that the Kirby series is still continuing things on during the forms of its lifespan, which is impressive, I might add. Especially is a good thing, because, you know, I love playing Kirby games so much. In fact, because of the forms of how the fact that between Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and also Crash Bandicoot, and as well as the forms of Spyro the Dragon, and all the other gaming franchises in general, Kirby is without doubt is one of my favorite game franchises of all time, especially considering it does have a lot of interesting concepts, and especially noticeable despite the fact that it does have a lack of originality when it comes to some games. I will admit that right away. I'm looking at you, Kirby Star Allies, I will admit that right away, but then again though, that particular topic can wait, especially noticeable when we get to next year. So even then though, what's the sort of things I loved about the forms of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, if you're probably wondering? Well, the story remains the same, but it does add some bit of extra detail with the forms of the actual story details after beating the game once, and you obviously experience Megalore Abalog, like I mentioned this before, and it does look pretty interesting. And speaking of such, the gameplay is still fantastic even to this day, and on top of that, the Merry Mega Land, while it's fun when it comes to, like, playing with your friends, of course, and on top of all that stuff though, with the forms of the amount of content is just super massive as it is, and on top of all that stuff though is about the fact that it's super fun to play. But when it comes to going for completionist, on the other hand, that's the entire different story. Especially noticeable because, my god, my thumbs is almost aching after a while. And even then though, before I get to more details onto this though, as you can see, we actually stumbled across into Past Adventures menu, which as you can see, it gives you the forms of a brief description for it, for not only for the majority of the Kirby games on the Nintendo Switch, usually means either the eShop exclusive ones, and especially noticeable for main ones here and there as well, but also showing us some bit of highlights for the majority of the 3DS Kirby games. Like, usually, relatively speaking, we've got Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, strangely enough, and also all the way up to Kirby Triple Deluxe at the very end. Although, they still mentioned one only Wii U Kirby game, which is, of course, Kirby and the Rainbow Paintbrush, or should I say, Rainbow Curse in the North American version. So, it's kind of a shame about the fact that those games are no longer available on the Nintendo eShop now, because obviously the eShop is dead. So, when it comes to the forms of both the Wii U and the 3DS, so, because, you know, we just moved on, basically, because, you know, future generations has to come, I'm afraid. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and show off the last thing before we end off this particular Let's Play right here. That's what it appears to be. We'll show off the special mode called Megalore Helper, or should I say, the forms of Helper Megalore. Well, like I said before, all it features is just basically it gives you a double of the amount of health, and on top of that, if you fell to a bottomless pit, obviously that Megalore will decide to bring you back out. So, yeah, it's kind of like the similar situation as the forms of Peach-Ed from New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and especially noticeable with the forms of Tails mode from the likes of the forms of Sonic Colors Ultimate. So yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So, I suppose my only main gripe I have with this version of the game compared to the Wii version, I will admit though right away, is the method of completing the game, fully 100% and everything. Because I will admit though right away though, it could have been like, I don't know, fan pool or something like that. Because you want to know the reason why I haven't gone back onto playing through The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, including Pikmin 4, and especially noticeable, I haven't gone back to Super Mario RPG for some time, even Sonic Frontiers as a result, because, well, this is why. Blame fanpool for that. Although, it's kind of weird about the fact that I have no idea why I'm saying things weirdly enough, mainly because about the fact that I'm just getting sick of the forms of playing through the exactly same sub-game so many damn times. I mean, something's worth noting for because of how the fact that it just feels a bit... It's hard to explain really, but still it's a fantastic time, don't get me wrong. Oh yeah, something's worth noting for is that Help and Megalore mode will not appear on extra mode, mainly because about the fact it'll just make things a bit difficult. So, and that was it. That's every single content I can show you guys for the sake of the forms of... Oh, and by the way, we've now got these rainbow star emblems for not only for the main mode, but also with Merry Mega Land here and there as well, meaning you've basically done everything. So, and also, in the file selection screen right here, we got ourselves a nice little rainbow effect when if you manage to select any other files. So, pretty interesting. And also, that our Kirby is now in green for some reason. So, even then though, yeah, that's what I can really say about that. So, overall, for my final thoughts, like I said before, this particular version of the game is pretty fantastic, all things considered. And to make matters even better, you can now finally play the game on the go, or should I say the Wii Classic game on the go. So at the very least though, about the fact that you can definitely recommend this game, but good luck trying to go for 100% completion, because either way though, I can assure you some players might took about a couple of hours to able to go for 100% completion. So I wish you guys luck for this. So yeah, and this is me, Tiana, from the likes of the Maxi Toys. And next up in terms of the forms of the Kirby series of Let's Plays, aside from the fact that we'll do Kirby Star Allies until next year, but also we decided to do some spin-off games. So, I'm not exactly sure which specific Kirby spin-off you guys want me to tackle through, so let me know in the comments down below. So even then though, jeez, that was exhausting, especially noticeable. Again, I had a lot of fun with it, but good god, going for 100% completion is quite hellish. So, I'll see you guys at some point soon. Bye.